So I mentioned Duke, right? We have this great wacky college football thing. Duke is 7-5. It is in the ACC championship game. And this is great, right? Everybody loves the underdog. Here comes 7-5 Duke to crash the party with all these teams with gaudy resumes that have been talked ad nauseum about this season. Everyone loves Cinderella, right? Wrong. People who claim to love this sport, people who cover the sport for a living, are too cynical to enjoy Duke. I mean, the Duke thing last night turned into, it just had me beating my head against the wall. College football media hates what makes college sports great. Example number 1045. And it's Duke playing for the ACC championship. Okay, so if you're asking, John, how did we get here? ACC championship game, by the way, 10-2 Virginia against 7-5 Duke. How did we get here? Well, Duke finished 6-2 in the ACC. They lost all three non-conference games to Illinois, Tulane, and UConn. Yes, UConn. I mean, these are all teams that are at least solid. But Duke did lose all three of those games, then went 6-2 in the ACC. They had a relatively easy ACC schedule because of the 5 teams that were tied for second. Duke had the opportunity. Well, they could have played 4. They only played one of them. That was Georgia Tech. They lost that game. So I do get why other ACC foes are like, dude, this is BS. Duke wins on not really a technicality, but the tiebreaker that was set up was highest winning percentage of common opponents, which when you have these big, giant, massive, bloated conferences, guys, it's hard to make tiebreakers. And that's one of the types of things that you have to do is just say, well, we'll go with your highest conference opponent winning percentage. Duke won that battle. SMU had a chance. All they had to do was go beat Cal with a lame duck coach who, well, not a lame duck coach, an interim coach after they had fired their coach. Just got to go beat Cal, who couldn't play any defense at all last night. And guess what? SMU lost. So there it is. Miami, all you had to do was then not lose to that SMU team or not lose to Louisville. Miami lost games. They're not in the ACC championship. Here comes Duke. To me, this is the type of thing that makes college football great when you have a real underdog story here. It's fun. George Mason goes to the Final Four. Everyone loves it. The entire ethos of March Madness, which is the biggest moneymaker that college sports has, it's all based on Cinderella and loving a good Cinderella story like this, right? Whether it's George Mason or it's Florida Gulf Coast, just someone winning a first round game, a 16 over a 1. That's what this is all built around. But yet, we got to hate on Duke. And Kirk Herbstreit was the first when during the Iron Bowl last night, he starts just very derisively talking about Duke and what it's, he's just like dismissing them and talking about what a ridiculous, his tone is saying like what a ridiculous thing this is that Duke is going to be playing for the ACC championship. And he was framing it as playing for a spot in the playoff. Now that's very much up for debate. Because I think it's more likely that if Duke were to win, you're going to get James Madison or another G5 champ that would be ranked higher than them because it is only the top 5 highest ranked conference champions, not a guarantee for the Power Fours that their league champ gets in. So that's just a disaster scenario for the ACC, obviously. But either way, like Herbstreit, just have some fun with it, dude. You get to go watch Alabama and Michigan and Ohio State every single week when you're doing the biggest game across the country. Like, just, you get enough of the big brands all the time. It's a 12-team playoff. At least like 8 or 9 of these things are going to be the big brands that you care about. Can you not just allow yourself to have a little bit of fun with Duke being in the ACC championship game? Like, just, they're not even likely to make the playoff no matter what happens there. Just enjoy what makes college sports zany and awesome. It blows my mind. And then we had stuff like this. And look, I like Nicole Auerbach. I do. But, I mean, I thought this was just such a bad take from her. So she's advocating for just changing the rules. Like, this might be an unpopular take, but if I'm the ACC and Cal upsets SMU, I override the tiebreakers and put Miami in the ACC championship game against Virginia. I mean, like, what you are suggesting there is to just pull the rug out from under everybody. Give them a set of rules to play by at the beginning of the year. And then when you don't get the outcome you like based on those rules, you say, well, we're just going to change the rules. Sorry. Here, we'll throw a big brand in there. After you're already disproportionately slanting resume toward teams that just get more eyeballs viewership-wise, right? You're already slanting all these advantages toward them anyway. You're going to then just throw them in the championship game based on the rules that you set up? Like, what are we doing here? How is this a real take from like a really respected journalist? And there were plenty of people that were on board with this. I mean, I saw Bud Elliott, who, again, like, I respect Bud Elliott's work, but when we're talking about guys who love them some big brands more than anything else, I mean, he's definitely toward the top of that list, and he was getting in line with loving up this take too. Now, the ACC didn't do this, okay? Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do the right thing, so the ACC did not do this, thankfully. But, like, it's just like Kirk Herbstreit, Nicole Auerbach, Bud Elliott, like people who have some real legitimate influence are like lining up behind this as an idea of a real thing. That's such a bad take, man. Everything in this sport is so slanted toward the big boys and the big brands. Can we just say, like, hey, lose less games than Duke, Miami, and don't complain about it? By the way, Manny Diaz is the head coach at Duke. He was fired from Miami. He has now gotten to the ACC championship game before Mario Cristobal has, despite all this money and going and grabbing a $4 million quarterback from Georgia. Miami's fired coach gets there before them. Maybe just don't underachieve with your talent again, Miami. I hate so much of this, that this is like what the sport has turned into. It's what people seem to legitimately like. There is plenty of love to go around for the big brands, more than they could ever need in the sport these days. Just embrace a little bit of fun and kookiness and an underdog. For the love of God, man, like, just ease up on this a little bit. That really got me, man. I hate that was a legitimate talking point. You can't set this precedent that, like, that's what we're going to do. It's such a slippery slope thing. And by the way, if you want to come back at me and say, well, John, you're the fan of a conference in the Big 12 who kind of did that 2 years ago in 2023, I will say touche, and I hated it then, and I said it then. At least at that point, the Big 12 had a bit of an out because the rule was written so clunkily. They could inaccurately, gaslighting a little bit, make the case that it wasn't a full-on rule change. They were clarifying the wording, but, you guys remember that whole thing. It was Oklahoma State got into the Big 12 championship game, not just because of this, but going into the last week, this cleared it up for them. There was that random comma where it said, if not, comma, every tied team has played each other, comma, go to step 2. Not a grammatically sensical sentence. And the rogue comma became this whole thing, and the Big 12 was like, no, we didn't change anything. It was like, no, you actually did, but that's, neither here nor there. I didn't like that then. That was not nearly as egregious as this would have been, and I definitely don't like this now. And it is just, this is, if you're a Big 12 fan, if you're an ACC fan, this is what you're up against. So many people in the sport have just gotten to the point where they think like this. And it's like, if it's not benefiting the biggest and the bluest of the bloods, I don't need it. I don't want it. And so much of that attitude is taken over. It's too pervasive, and it's going to get to a point where not only is it going to ruin the sport for anybody who's not a blue blood, but it's then going to ruin it all for them when they realize, oh, we actually did need the entirety of the college football ecosystem to be involved for this to be a viable product that's not just sterilized semi-professional football, just semi-professional NFL football. Perfectly emblematic of where the sport is at is what happened with Duke. And if Duke wins, whether it's Duke that gets in or whether it is James Madison or whoever, believe you me, I mean, there will be a rule. There will be a rule next year. I can guarantee you there will be a rule. Nobody will let this stand. Greg Sankey, Tony Petitti, they're not going to let that stand on their watch. there will be a rule about how high you've got to be ranked, or else it just goes to another at large or something. It'll come. It'll change. I guarantee you. I guarantee you it will. And it's going to be maddening. There are blowouts in NFL playoff games. There are blowouts in the NBA playoffs. There are baseball, little more unpredictable sport, but there are blowouts in baseball play. If you have a playoff system, it's the way it works. You're going to get some teams that blow out other teams. But taking away the illusion that they have a chance and just being included in everything is bad. That is bad for the overall health of the sport, but people are going to continue trying to do that.